Iowa State Senate, is this a part-time job, full-time part of the year? How does that work?
Yeah, so our legislative session is typically about 100 days. So it starts in January and runs until about mid-April or so. And it is a part-time job, so it pays about $25,000 a year with benefits, which is nice. And then we do get a per diem. So, and that's one of the things that I like to really talk about when I have the opportunity because, clearly the pay grade and the schedule was set up for, farmers who don't have anything other to do in the winter, I guess, so they can go to Des Moines and write some laws. Times have changed. Agriculture is only the sixth largest industry in the state of Iowa, if you can believe that. Manufacturing and healthcare and real estate are far above the farm economy in terms of, dollars. And so things have changed, lives have changed. And the truth is the way that the legislature is set up really excludes a lot of good people who I think would be outstanding legislators simply because they can't take off, time away from work to be able to run for office. And then who has a job that's going to let you take 100 days off at the beginning of the year, to work 70-hour weeks and then, come back and resume your job again? Not very many. And so there's really only a few certain select type of people that are able to run. And either those are people who own their own business or have a spouse or a partner of some kind at home, that's able to support them financially while they run and when they're not in session. So it kind of creates a tough situation for, a single mom maybe that might want to run, or somebody that's got a full-time job, or, whatever the scenario might be. So that's one of the things that the other legislative candidates and I talk a lot about is, we're not just here to run and win. We certainly, that's obviously goal number one, but we're also thinking ahead to how can we make this more inclusive for people who aren't like us in the future. And those are some really fun conversations actually to talk about and to dream about a different legislature someday.
All right. Well, that is excellent. And you are running unopposed in the primary. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep. I do not have a primary opponent.
The incumbent in this seat right now is being primaried, though.
Yes, he does have a primary opponent. The guy that's running against him has run against him at least 2 other times. So he's kind of a perennial candidate. So I don't know his primary opponent, but yes, he has run against him before.
All right. So you're pushing ahead to November.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is there anything else that you would like to make sure that people know about you or about Iowa?
I will tell you the most amazing fact that probably 90% of your listeners, this will blow their mind. When you picture Iowa and you think of all the corn in the fields in Iowa, none of that corn is able to be eaten by humans. It all has to pass through a machine or the stomach of an animal to actually be edible. I know. It kind of pops the bubble a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot involved from, planting to harvesting to actually to the point where that food stuff actually becomes something that is realized calories in the body of a human being. So, yeah.
Well, I'm from Ohio and I only believe in eating Ohio sweet corn anyway, so.
Yes. Sweet corn is a completely different animal and it's wonderful and it's delightful and it's the taste of summer and I love all of that. But yeah, that other stuff is a completely different kind of corn and you can't even eat it.
All right. Well, next time I drive through Iowa, you're gonna just ruin my whole vision of.
I know. I know. Things are never what they seem.
Thank you so much for coming on with me. I know your schedule's really busy.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. This was a lot of fun.
I'm so thrilled that there are so many women and so many mothers in general, but especially so many Moms Demand Action volunteers who are stepping up and running for office this year.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I just watch us go. I can't wait.
All right. Thank you, Amber.
Thank you so much, Kelly.
Hi, I'm Nicole. Sarah,
Hillary.
And we're the hosts of the Feminine Mistake podcast.
Each month we sit down with a guest to watch movies that are 20 years or older.
And see how they hold up to today's modern feminist lens.
Why do mermaids have such low self-esteem?
Why is it so funny when men take care of babies?
What exactly did Jenny die of in Love Story?
These are the kind of hard questions we ask ourselves on the Feminine Mistake podcast. The Feminine Mistake podcast, now available on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Podbean. Do you guys think that was okay?
Yeah, I don't know. We sounded kind of shrill.
Really?
Yeah, women's voices are just so grating on the radio.
Yeah.
Oh, man, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever heard those guys over at the Nerdist or Last Podcast on the Left? I mean, they're just biologically more funny than we are.
That's so true.
Yeah.
I'm here in this segment with Christy Clark, who is running for the North Carolina State House, District 98. Hi, Christy.
Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here.
Great. I'm so happy you could join us. Can you start by telling me just a little bit about your background and why you've decided to run for office?
Sure. So for the past 5 years, I have been a volunteer leader with an organization called Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. And through that volunteer leadership role, I was able to drive from where I live in Huntersville to Raleigh and visit the state legislature and interact with our representatives on both sides of the aisle. And in that process, I realized that I was hearing the call to serve at our legislature as well. And so after the November 2016 elections, once I recovered from the shock of what happened, I decided I was going to run for office, and here I am today.
So you're running in the 98th district. Can you tell us a little bit about what that district looks like? Where is it in North Carolina? And what are the kinds of things that people there are really concerned with?
Sure. So District 98 is what's called in North Mecklenburg County. It consists of 3 towns, Huntersville, Davidson, and Cornelius. The district was newly drawn as a result of a gerrymandering court case in August of 2017. And so this will be the first time that a race has been run on this particular makeup of voters. There are an equal number of Republicans and unaffiliated voters, and then a smaller amount of Democrats. And within the unaffiliated voter segment, there are a significant amount of voters who normally vote Democrat in a primary. And so there is a great opportunity for this district to be flipped from Republican to Democratic this year, which is very exciting. This district is one of the top 6 in the states that could be flipped. So we are really excited to get the vote out for that. The main issues in North Mecklenburg County, one of them is sort of unusual when I describe it. There is going to be a managed toll lane, and it's being built as we speak on our highway here. And really that contract for that managed toll lane was done behind closed doors and without the input from the citizens that live in this part of North Mecklenburg County. And people here are upset about that because they feel like their representatives in Raleigh turned their backs on them and did not give the people who live here an opportunity to voice their opinion of this toll lane, and also just pushed it through with seemingly not having a lot of concern about what the impact was going to be on the citizens that live here. And for us that live here in North Mecklenburg, which is north of Charlotte, North Carolina, there is a lot of traffic. The growth in population has skyrocketed in the past few years. And it's hard to get from one place to the other without having to sit in traffic. And so what the citizens here really wanted was expanding the highway so we could have an easier time commuting to and from Charlotte and going north up to Mooresville. But that's not what happened. So now we have this toll lane. What it really speaks to is that the representatives in Raleigh weren't paying attention and weren't listening to what the citizens here want. We also are, because of our dramatic growth here, our public school system is sort of falling apart because of cuts in taxes that were happened with the GOP-led legislature. So we have teachers who are not being paid what they should be, and they're leaving our state. We have schools that are primarily a lot of portables and not a lot of infrastructure is being redone, and the teachers don't have the resources they need. And so that's a big concern where we are in Mecklenburg County.
And so this kind of position in the state house, is this a full-time or part-time, part of the year, all of the year? What does that look like?
So in North Carolina, we have what is basically a part-time position. It doesn't pay a whole lot, which doesn't matter to me, but it's not something that happens year-round. So in odd years, there is a long session so it can start anywhere from February and last until August. And then in even years, there's a shorter session that lasts from February or March into April or May. And that usually is a budget year session. And so what it means is driving on Mondays, staying overnight for 3 days, and then driving back on Friday mornings.
And so this has come up several times as we've talked to people running for state legislatures, but that sort of schedule and that sort of low pay because it's a part-time job really seems to limit the kinds of people who can run for office. What does the average legislator look like in the North Carolina State House?
Right now it is largely male and largely retired males, but there are some folks that do work, but it's a rigorous task to be a legislator. And so while you might be driving up and down the highway to Raleigh to work on bills and be in session, you also are expected to be at community events and speaking and networking in your community. So it turns out that the people that have full-time jobs here have to find a balance with that. And so for me, I work for my husband. I'm a paralegal and he's an attorney. And so he has basically given me a leave of absence to be a candidate. And if I'm elected, I would work for him some, but it would be, we are able to allow that I could just not have to work for him anymore.
It's really problematic, I think, on a large scale. We need to think about that as states and as a country, how representative we can really be with those sorts of positions.
Right. It makes it difficult for anyone for families that have to have, both parents or both people in a marriage or couple working. It doesn't lend to the opportunity to them as much when they might really feel the call to run for office, but they just can't because their family can't afford to have that happen.
So how did you get started working with Moms Demand Action? How long were you involved with that organization?
Moms Demand Action was founded the day after Sandy Hook by a mom named Shannon Watts. She created a Facebook page, and after I saw the shooting at Sandy Hook happen, and my youngest child at the time was in first grade. With our blended family, we have 5 kids, so school shootings are very real for us. I immediately messaged the Facebook page and got on the list to be an active volunteer and started volunteering in very small ways in the beginning. And then as I became more knowledgeable about the issue and really what gun laws look like in the state and then the country and how it isn't what you think it is. For example, I always thought that you had to have a background check when you bought a gun, no matter where you bought your gun. And that's just not true. And so when I learned things like that, and I also became more connected to survivors of gun violence, I really committed my volunteer time to Moms Demand Action and spent the past 2 years almost full-time volunteering for them.
And so what do you think working with Moms Demand Action has sort of taught you that's been helpful to you as thinking about being a candidate and then being in office?
One of the most amazing aspects of Moms Demand Action as a volunteer is that they have an incredible training program. And through that training program, they teach volunteers how to advocate in the legislature, how to work with survivors, how to phone bank, how to canvass, how to do all the things that you can take from running an issue-based campaign like Moms Demand Action does to running a candidate-based campaign. And so they really prepared me for what it was going to take to get organized and run a campaign.
And what do your 5 kids think about you running for office? And are they working with the campaign at all? How does all of that play out?
Most of my 5 kids are really excited about it, as you can imagine. My oldest stepson is a political science major at NC State, and he is really excited about being able to participate in the process over the summer. My daughter, she's the only girl. She described it as it's really boss that I'm running for office. So, so that's kind of how she feels about it. And so they are excited, and they, through my advocacy work, have had the pleasure of traveling to Raleigh with me and meeting with legislators and going to marches and going to share the message about gun violence prevention. So they are sort of prepared, but I'm not sure they're totally aware of what's going to be happening in the